exactly today, 45 years ago, my mother, 5-year-old little sister, and I were huddled in the corridor of our home in Nicosia, Cyprus, hiding from the shootings of the 1974 coup in Cyprus, waiting for my father who was missing. We waited 5 days. I was one of the lucky ones, that despite the displacement, burning down of our family business, experience of life in a camp, my family was safe and we were together in the end. 45 years later on, exactly on the same day, I stand before such a fantastic gathering of amazing people, advocates, who are working to advance religious freedom all over the world. Honestly, I still can't believe it can be true. I thank all of you for all you do, and I thank God for the opportunity to be here before you and with you. I thank the State Secretary Pompeo for his commitment in hosting such a human rights gathering, and Ambassador Brownback for convening it and bringing us together, and all who worked and are still working hard for it and for the generous hospitality. I stand on the shoulders of many who raised me, who believed in me, taught me, guided me, and worked with me and still do. I especially want to recognize the Christian and Muslim religious leaders of Cyprus and the different faith communities in Cyprus with whom I worked for the last 10 years for their courage and to do what is right. The Swedish government, the Embassy of Sweden in Nicosia, my colleagues, my friends and colleagues at the US Embassy, and all, without whose support and encouragement, I wouldn't be here today. As a grandchild of survivors of persecution, deportation, destitution, mass killings amounting to genocide, still disputed and denied, my family never lost their faith. They never stopped to love and teach love. That was the way they overcame their trauma and healed. I was inspired by my mother, her mother, and her grandmother to work for the rights of everyone, everywhere, all the time, that no one would ever have to suffer what they did. Above all, they taught me to have faith, to forgive and never lose hope. Almost a century later, and we heard yesterday, we still witness women and men, young and old, being persecuted for thinking, believing, and practicing what they want. Tortured, raped, incarcerated, killed for who they are and for what they believe. I would like to share with you a few thoughts of what we do in Cyprus, in the religious track of the Cyprus peace processes. We call it RTCIP for short, which was created out of a realization that international diplomacy in Cyprus had failed to acknowledge the significance of religious freedom in ensuring a peace agreement in Cyprus in 2004. The realization that a country in conflict since '64, divided following a coup and a military operation in 1974, partly occupied militarily, where two ethnic communities were ethnically cleansed and religiously totally separated, to live side by side in a small, very small island, still without a comprehensive agreement till today, on how to live together and share their homeland. Repeated UN Security Council resolutions, countless meetings of political leaders led by the UN, have not yet brought the two sides to a peace agreement. Thankfully, international diplomacy has started to see one of the flaws in this process, namely that without dialogue and cooperation of all sectors of society, including the faith communities, religious leaders, women and men, without efforts to build trust among them, without everyone looking at the past together, without addressing the pain of the other, without being truthful together, without compromising together, it will not be possible to strike an agreement and make it viable. This should have and should apply and include the religious leaders, faith communities, and women too. One of the areas where we still need to be truthful and address more is that of religious freedom, and the realization that religion is also part of our identity. Religion was and still is one of the victims of the Cyprus conflict. While Cyprus is not a religious conflict, religion is part of it. The two ethnic communities, Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot, do not share the same religion, one being mainly Greek Orthodox Christian and the other mainly Sunni Muslim. In addition to the ethnic minorities like the Armenians, who are mainly Christian Orthodox, and religious minorities who settled in Cyprus centuries ago, like the Maronite Catholic, Latin Catholic, who also are caught in the conflict and were separated from their homes and places of worship, which also includes evangelicals and Buddhists and Baha'is and Jews living in Cyprus. When people got separated and the island was divided in 1974, without any free movement between the ceasefire line, places of worship, cemeteries, especially Christian ones, which are also considered sacred, became victims of vandalism, lootings, and neglect. The faithful, to whom these sacred places meant everything, were denied access to worship or even visit. Properties of the religious communities were brought under the guardianship of the respective authority where they were located, be it in the south, government-controlled areas, or north, under the Turkish Cypriot or Turkish military control, depending on where they were found. All religious artifacts, priceless icons, and more were confiscated, stolen, lost in the conflict. Places of worship were neglected, locked up, or used as a place of worship for another, as cultural or community centers, or stables and storages, or just left there to perish. Worshipping was denied, or is denied, and at best controlled by state authorities or the military. A sore wound in the heart of all believers, an obstacle to peace. In the meantime, religion and religious leaders sidelined or asymmetrically involved in such a manner that was destructive instead of constructive. Till 2009, when we started the process, no religious leader from the two sides had ever sat together and met or talked to each other regarding the Cyprus peace process ever. Since then, the 5 religious leaders of the island have met uninterrupted for the first time ever in the history of the island. We designed a process of quiet diplomacy, where a meeting took place at the residence of the Swedish ambassador for the first time in 2009, bringing together the leader of the head of the Greek Orthodox Church of Cyprus together with the Mufti of Cyprus. They'd never come together. Without an agenda, just for them to meet, to decide, and to decide together if they wanted to be together. And they did. Together, they were joined by the Armenian Orthodox, Maronite, and Latin Catholic. They've designed an agenda where they've pledged to work together for religious freedom, get to know one another, build trust, and hope to build confidence not only among themselves, but among their respective communities. They have given their blessings and allowed us to facilitate a wider roundtable called Faith for Rights, which includes all other faith communities in Cyprus together. Here I must add that the US model of roundtables and task forces that I've been hearing about has inspired me personally, and I really hope when I return we can open this group to a dialogue space with political and state authorities. Together they have advocated for the right of the other to have access and pray at their respective place of worship. They visited each other's place of worship together, even the closed ones, destroyed for decades and made visible witness of respect for religious freedom and reconciliation. This was unheard of in Cyprus before 2009. Together they attend each other's prayer services on special feast days and nowadays do not even want to miss that. Together they've spoken out not only on religious freedom and the Cyprus conflict, but against terror attacks, violence against women, for the missing persons, something also unheard of before 2009. Together they've joined campaigns on other social issues where religious freedom has been a cross-cutting element. They learn each other's language under the same roof in 2 parallel classrooms in the buffer zone where no one tries to learn each other's language except some civil society groups. And most important, they advocate for religious freedom for all, for the other. They advocate for the right of the other despite the risks they face. The religious leaders have learned that in a divided society where one does not acknowledge or recognize the other, speaking to each other and speaking together based on principles of human rights and international law does bring about change. The international community has understood that they cannot ignore religious freedom anymore when tackling the peace process. The Embassy of Sweden has not given up to host and provide a safe space without being an intruder, for the meetings to take place without intervening or guiding. The Office of the Religious Track, which I guide, facilitates, mediates, and serves the whole process. We draft, convene, relate, mediate government, media, and others. What has the Religious Track taught us that can be used to inspire others? I just share a few. Religious freedom should be part and parcel of any peace process. Religious leaders can and should work together to advance religious freedom for all. This is not the same as interfaith dialogue. Religious leaders can advocate for each other's rights and can be agents of change, instruments of peace, when their language is based on human rights and they do that together. Advocating for religious freedom builds empathy, trust, and is a powerful tool for confidence building, and you all know that because you do the same. Respecting religious freedom helps the faith communities to look at their past together, help them heal from decades of trauma and work for peace together. Governments and faith leaders can work together to advance religious freedom as long as they have no hidden agenda, but stay to what is at the core. Dialogue promotes cooperation and coexistence. It vaccinates against polarization. Persistent, patient facilitation bears fruits. And as women, we should not be scared of cracking the ceiling of the male-dominated religious leadership world. Having said this, I do not want to give wrong impression. We have a very long way to go to change the current reality on the ground in Cyprus. For the full realization of the significance respecting religious freedom can mean to a peace process, and for religious freedom to be fully respected in Cyprus. Peace building, as we all know, it is a slow, patient process, but working for human rights is always remains urgent. There are no cutting corners. If one of us is not free, none of us are free. The thought I want to leave for Cyprus, and I will close. The right to worship, the right to access and administer one's religious monuments cannot be held hostage to any conflict or peace negotiations. They should not wait for the peace agreement, but they should be considered now. They should be the fruit. The peace agreement should be the fruit of that process. The religious leaders have made realistic proposals on this, and they should be heard. Restoring, protecting, and renovating religious monuments cannot be left in the hands of cultural heritage experts or conservationists alone, who don't understand or don't want to understand the acknowledged principles and practice of religious freedom. Neither the international community nor states, nor any technocrat or appointed person should take over the role and responsibility of the rightful owners of places of worship. Personally, as a woman, peace builder, the message I have for other women and men is that believe in what you do it with passion, with faith, be genuine, and never lose hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that and for your work.